errors or omissions or any additions to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll call it. All in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried. We'll go now to the minutes of our last regular meeting on August the 10th. First of all, a motion to accept the minutes as presented, moved by Councillor Wall, seconded by Councillor Aker. Any errors or omissions in the minutes? Errors or omissions? Hearing none, I'll call it. All in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried. Business arising from the minutes of August 10th. Councillor Tessier.
585 North Park Avenue. It's safe to say that nobody's more relieved than this council to see that it's finished. But if you take a drive up Park Avenue, and I know that, if you take a drive up Park Avenue, you can see there's still some finishing work to be done.
Yep.
It still needs to be cleaned up. So I know that in speaking with our CAO, that is something that has to be addressed. There's still, bits of pavement, pebble, debris left, and in some instances, a couple of larger rocks. Also, I've noticed that some of the manholes, the pavement is higher around some of the manholes, and you actually feel a bit of a bump when you go over them, and some of the joins onto some of the side streets also need to be addressed, I think. I'm not an engineer, but from a layman's perspective, when you look at it and you look at the money that was put into this project, I'd be interested.
Wasn't a lot, 5.7 million?
Yes.
Wasn't a lot?
Well, no. But I'd be interested in getting certainly an engineer's perspective on this as well, because I look forward, I guess, to the final report. But again, very pleased with the diligence of the staff here and everybody involved to make sure that it did finally get completed. We've all been quite frustrated with it, there's no doubt. But again, there is some work that needs to be done, some more finishing work and some more cleanup that needs to happen on Park Avenue. So I just want to make sure that that definitely does get addressed as well.
Thank you. I don't know if Mr. Lush wishes to address anything associated to that or not. Is there, from an engineering perspective, stuff to look at here with this paving job?
Yes, sir. Not at this point, because the contractor hasn't asked for substantial completion. So once they ask for substantial completion and those issues still remain, then we go back and pursue it, but not until they ask for the substantial completion, which they haven't. So they still realize there's work to be done.
Now, when they lay down that final sheet of asphalt, as they've done, the fact that it's a little bit higher than the manhole covers right now, that settles, doesn't it? That's kind of standard to the circumstance, or not?
There might have to be some more work done around the manholes.
Is that right?
Occasionally you'll get that, but the manholes usually have to be taken up as well and reinstalled, and the valve cover's got to be taken. There's lots of things, I guess lots of little things left to be done before they would come back and say it's actually finished.
Right.
And there might be some more, and it's not finished till the compaction testing and all the reports come back and say it's finished.
Okay.
Some of the manholes are fallen, flush with the pavement.
Right.
Some of them are not.
And some of them are not. Okay.
Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Stoyles?
In the minutes I had it actually to speak to as well. It was said that we would take it to the M&L, and
yes.
Of course we had our meeting last week in Bourgeois, and I certainly did address the concerns of looking at the provincial government doing some, specific changes to work completion when you're looking at paving and stuff like that, making sure that, not only here in Mount Pearl, but in the whole province. So it's gone to the M&L board, and it will be on the board for the urban towns as well. As you know, Keith
at
Keating
the next meeting.
At the next meeting, Keith Keating has it on his agenda as chair of the urban towns, and we did have a discussion at our board table, and Craig Powlett has been asked to meet with officials in municipal affairs, and they certainly will be addressing the concerns not only from Mount Pearl but from other municipalities around the province. Corner Brook and other municipalities have indicated the same concerns that we had with timelines and the quality of work and things like that, and that when a tender goes out that we are obliged to give it to the lowest tender. And we've asked the government to, we're going to be looking at those.
I spoke with our own CAO today about this matter, and it's our understanding that some of the difficulty we've encountered in construction and development is being encountered at the provincial level as well. And the provincial government is apparently quite open to having contained in future tenders some type of statement regarding standards of work, timeliness of work, quality of work, and whether or not penalties for failure to comply could actually be applied. There is a certain willingness on the part of the province to engage in a discussion about that. There's a positive to that and a negative to that. So we'll see how it goes. But there's no doubt that there's a need in that area for a little more specifics on how these tenders are completed. Anybody else with a further comment on that or other business? Other business arising? Councillor Tessier?
613, Synergy. We had been, I guess we believed that they were going to start work again, but I drive by there on a regular basis, and it still doesn't seem to be any progress. It doesn't seem to be any movement there at all. And I particularly want to make mention about the area of pavement that's torn up in front of the house that's right on the end of Gadwall. That, of course, we know is of concern to the resident there, and I again am wondering if we have any more information about when that would be started, and particularly that patch of pavement that's torn up.
Mr. Jevchik?
Your Worship, we have received an email today from Synergy regarding that very issue. Well, the two issues: one about the timing of the development, and the work on Gadwall Crescent, Gadwall Place, I should say. According to the information we have, they won't be in a position to start for at least another 2 weeks with work in that area. What they have suggested with respect to Gadwall, that if there is a problem that needs to be addressed immediately, that perhaps the city may consider using their own forces to do it and build them back once work is completed.
Just on the Gadwall?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Are we in the question I was going to ask? Are we in a circumstance where maybe we should do that, Mr. Lush? What's your view on that?
We can schedule it in, but I'd rather let Synergy take care of it, just the complexity and trying to really take it out of the security, and then it comes back to a warranty issue and an ongoing maintenance issue. I'd rather wait. It's not an unsafe situation. It's just a little unsightly. So 2 weeks by the time I get it scheduled in, it might possibly be 2 weeks before we take care of it, but I'll certainly put it there tentatively. If they don't react within 2 weeks, we move in and we'll take care of it.
Okay. All right. That may be the wisest course of action for the moment. Councillor Tessier?
I just want to make sure that when the work progresses then with Synergy, and I understand the need, or the need, but I understand the rationale for waiting for Synergy to do it, to begin and complete their own project. But can we ensure that this particular patch of pavement is cleaned up, that's a priority before they start working up on the hill, and it's not left and delayed further? I'd like for that to become a priority, only because it's been an eyesore for the resident that lives there. I wouldn't want it in front of my house all summer long, I got to be honest.
Can we do that? We can tackle that? Okay, thank you. Anything else from business arising? Hearing none. Anything from the action report that's attached? We have proclamations, presentations. Today we have none. In correspondence listed, there are a couple of items, one of which is really dealing with the Corporate Services Committee, and I'm going to turn it over to that committee. Now, I understand Councillor Lane is not with us, so Councillor Tessier, as the member on that committee, maybe you would like to address this memo dealing with the ratification of our new collective agreement.
We can do that.
And we can also, I suppose, call on the CAO at some point if we need to here
Okay.
on this. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the city's collective agreement with its unionized employees represented by CUPE Local 2099 expired on June 30th of this year. Collective bargaining for a new contract commenced in May of this year, and it continued during this period and included the assistance of a conciliator commencing in early July. A tentative agreement was reached on July 27th. This agreement covers a 4-year period from July 1st, 2010 to June 30th, 2014. It includes overall wage increases of 17% for all classifications, commencing with 5% on July 1st, 2010, and 4% in each year commencing on July 1st with each respective year up until 2013. In addition to these increases, there were a number of other changes agreed upon, including the use of date of hire for seniority for newly hired employees, minor increases in meal and clothing allowances, and greater flexibility in the use of flex time and the use of overtime. The contract also provides for use of the city's branding and imaging for clothing used by employees who routinely interact with the public, as well as establishment of a committee to update current job descriptions. The committee recommends the committee commends both negotiating teams in their efforts to successfully conclude negotiations and reaching a tentative agreement to ensure the continuation of the provision of quality municipal services to our residents and to the business owners and operators. In the coming weeks, there's going to be a formal contract signed to which appropriate representatives will be invited. The tentative agreement was ratified by the City on July 27th and by CUPE Local 2099 on July 29th, 2010. So I move that the approval be granted to execute the collective agreement between the City of Mount Pearl and CUPE Local 2099 as negotiated and as previously ratified by both parties. It is further moved that the negotiated increases, how about that, for the unionized employees be made applicable to both management employees and to the councillors' remuneration. And again, I so move. And before we continue, again, we commend both negotiating teams in their efforts, and we truly do mean it. I mean, everybody who came to the table came with the best interests of everybody and the city services and the quality of services that we give to our city and our residents. So again, I move that this be approved.
It is moved by Councillor Tessier, seconded by Councillor Stoyles as the alternate on that committee. Any questions or comments relating here to this particular motion? Hearing none, everyone is aware, of course, and we are aware that this particular motion applies not only to our unionized staff, but also to our non-unionized staff, applies to our management staff, applies to City Council. There is no, therefore, as a result of this decision, any ambiguity about remuneration for anybody in the city for the next 4 years, right up to and including 2013, before a new contract is signed in 2014. This has been a process the city has used for a number of collective agreements, and it's always proven to be a successful route to go. And I think everybody should be satisfied with both the outcome and with the process going forward. Hearing no comment or question from anyone, then I will call it. All those in favor of ratifying the collective agreement as presented, say aye. Aye. Those contrary-minded, nay. The motion is carried. Thank you, Councillor Tessier, for that. Moving on, we do have an issue relating to donations to Eastern Newfoundland Night, which is part of the annual convention coming up. I don't know why this is here, because it's my understanding that we've agreed to all of this. So that should be moved? Okay, because it's my understanding we've done this. Yes. That we are going to make our contribution and so on. Yes. The other item that we have here is from the Minister of Environment, and this is in reference to our correspondence on wastewater systems effluent regulations under the Fisheries Act. And this letter is simply informing us that they got our commentary and best wishes to us all. Anybody have a comment on it? Hearing none, we'll move along then. We're up to committee reports. The first that I have here is for the Public Works Committee. Councillor Tessier, if you would.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a short agenda here today with Public Works. We have a policy now for the handling of hogweed, and I know it's been in the news the past day or so that there have been some areas, I think in the city of St. John's, where hogweed has been located, and yes. Hogweed can be a potentially dangerous weed. It's a very large plant. So as a result, we've come up with a policy for the handling of hogweed. We discussed the recent reports with respect to giant hogweed plant and the implications should people come in direct contact with that plant. We wish to advise the residents of Mount Pearl that should they locate this plant on their property, they should contact a landscape professional to identify and remove the plants, to not do it themselves. Should the plant be found on city property, contact the Department of Infrastructure and Public Works, and we will take measures to have the plant removed. And any information that you need about this can be found on our website as well. So if anybody has any concerns, they can certainly avail of that information on the website.
Have we found any hogweed in our city?
No, we haven't found any, but I know that I was reading some reports, and I think there were 10 areas in St. John's recently where the hogweed has been located and removed.
Yes.
This is a plant that can grow really tall. Like it can go like 15 feet high. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah.
It can go 15 feet high. So you would think it would be easily identifiable, but the sap that comes from it can burn your skin, it can blister your skin, and it can also cause blindness if it comes in contact with your eyes. So that's why we have to be very cautious. Should you find any of this within our boundaries, definitely don't try to remove it yourself. If it's on your own property, call a landscaping company, and if it's on ours, call us.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have, there's no motion on that, that's information only. Is there anything outside of the regular agenda here to be addressed by your committee? Because I haven't had a chance to go down through these papers. There is not. We are up to Community Services. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. There are several items. The first couple are just information and kind of good news stories,
You're
actually.
the alternate here.
We want to acknowledge and thank the Honourable Terry French, Minister of Tourism, and his department for the generous donation of in excess of $9,000 towards Admiralty House. This really ties in, Your Worship, to the significance of that site as a wireless station, and any support that we can provide and government can provide to Admiralty House is very much appreciated. So a short while ago they did announce the pledge of funding, and in doing so, of course, we acknowledge also the work and the efforts of the staff there, the board of directors, and particularly our manager, Angela Noseworthy, for this funding initiative. And again, thank government for their generous donation and support.
Is there a requirement on our part that we write a letter, that we send them a note of
It
thanks?
might be a good idea, if we haven't done so already, to actually write a letter and thank them for their donation.
Okay, if
and
you have not,
in doing
we
so, thank and acknowledge the staff, if we could, Your Worship,
Absolutely.
and copy them as well.
Absolutely.
Secondly, we're all very familiar, I think, with Philip Holloway. In fact, we've seen Philip's progress over the years. Time flies amazingly fast. It seemed like just a couple of years ago he was actually Youth of the Year, but it was back in 2007, now 4 years ago. 2006 it was when he was Youth of the Year. Philip just graduated from Memorial University with a music degree. We know and we've seen and heard Philip perform on many different occasions over the years, particularly as part of his competition with the Youth of the Year. He was also recognized for a Music Performing Arts Award. This year, Philip applied for medical school and was accepted into medical school. And that's a bit of a strange leap, music school to medical school, but sometimes these degrees come in handy. He was a young man who, though throughout his high school years, although he had this artistic bent involved in music and musicals and acting, he was also a good science and math student, and it obviously paid off. So congratulations to him. And again, Your Worship, if you'd be kind enough from your office to write a letter to Philip congratulating him on winning a second place in a National Music Festival Award. So a tremendous young man, a tremendous community asset for Mount Pearl, and I'm sure he's going to have a very successful medical career as well. I want to acknowledge as well the contributions. It's not too often, perhaps not often enough, Your Worship, where we get letters of commendation or acknowledgement of our employees, but we have many employees, for example, right now in our summer camp programs who are working with children who have varying degrees of disabilities. Throughout last year, one employee at our pool, Mike Delaney, was singled out by a parent who really appreciated the fact that Michael worked so closely with him because he had a hearing problem, and he was really able to work with him well, get him through the various levels of his swimming program. And I thought it was really striking that the parent actually took the time to comment and write an email and thank the staff there. So I'm assuming, Mr. Osmond, that we've already passed this on and thanked Mike. And I guess it provides an opportunity for me as Chair of Community Service and Council as well to thank our staff generally. We just acknowledged, for example, in the collective bargaining process, we do have an incredibly good and generous and supportive and talented staff. And these are just part-time staff in many cases who are running our swimming programs, and they just do an excellent job. And sometimes we don't take the time to acknowledge it. It's great that a parent noted it, and it provides an opportunity for us to say thank you, and I wanted to do that today.
You're here.
The Grand Concourse Authority, Your Worship, we have already, as part of the ongoing programs that they provide for us, provided $151,000, which represented 25% of the $604,000 that we're providing to them this year. For a number of years, Grand Concourse have been doing a lot of the work on our linear trails, but a lot of other work, and in fact expanding the role that they play in municipalities throughout Newfoundland and Labrador. Our experience has been a very, very good one with them. They've already completed the work for us on the Team Guzhou artificial turf site, and we can all vouch firsthand for for the degree and the quality of the work that was done there. Galway Park, with the one notable exception of some fencing, which we'll talk about in committee of the whole, but the work of the Grand Concourse is actually done and completed in Galway Park. The next item that I'll be discussing will be the actual dog park relocation, and if that proceeds as planned, they will be doing that work as well. The bottom line is they have a number of pieces of work that are ongoing and in progress here, including some extensions and upgrades to the linear park system, which I know Deputy Mayor Locke in particular will be very pleased with, because many of these are being expanded to 8 feet in width, and that's an incredibly good improvement to our linear walkways. Having said all that, it's time for us now, of course, because of some of the expanded work, particularly as it relates to the Team Guzhou site. One of the things, Your Worship, that I really wanted to try to do during my tenure as Chair of Community Service was actually to relocate successfully the St. David's Field. This is an important part of doing that. We have had some discussions, within the last 2 weeks with softball again, and everything seems to be on schedule to be able to relocate the field, and in fact, hopefully, as we'll hear in Committee of the Whole tonight, hopefully to actually get the building moved forward as well and try to get that done, at least get some footings in so that the building can be closed in over the winter and spring. So it's well underway. To achieve all that, however, it takes some money. So we're asking the support of Council to release an additional $250,000 to the Grand Concourse Authority, in addition to what they've already received, so they can proceed with the completion of this work, particularly the work down at the Team Guzhou site, and I so move.
It is moved by Councillor Wall, seconded by Deputy Mayor Locke. Questions or comments?
I have a question, Your Worship.
Question, Deputy Mayor.
Just with respect to the softball field, and I know we're planning hopefully for next year to get that up and running. I play in the men's slow pitch league, and it came up in conversation. I think Councillor Aker was also involved with this. I mean, I'm a new softball player, so I don't know the technical aspects of the softball field, but this particular player was asking about the standard to which this softball field will be designed. Is it something that's going to be able to accommodate, say, national tournaments? He mentioned about mainland fields with respect to their drainage and so on and so forth. So I did indicate to him that I would bring that forth when this issue came up. So I throw that out there. Are we to that stage yet in terms of the standards?
Mr. Osmond may have answers from the point of view of the standards to apply to the development of this new field.
Your Worship, let there be no doubt that we'll be building to the national standard. First of all, when we get into some discussion on layout, the facility will be built to national standard, SPN standard, the softball national standard, which is 300 feet to the outfield fence. The drainage system will be built to standard for drainage. The whole field in terms of crowning and so on and so forth, all done to standard. The fencing will be done to standard. Dugouts are being designed and laid out to standard, and I'll point out some of that later on when I get into the logistics of the site. So everything on this site in terms of hosting a national event, by all means, it'll be for national status or national event. To do otherwise in our environment now would be not a good idea. So I think that in meetings with softball, they did bring up that point early, that we'd make sure that we're at national standard, and we've brought it to that level. It's national standard, 300 feet to the outfield fence center, and it's 185 to or 285, sorry, to the fall fence. So you're in good shape. It's a good layout, and it should augur well in the future.
Thank you very much.
I should mention as part of that, and Mr. Osmond and I had a discussion on that last week in our committee meeting, part of this plan as well will mean a considerable reallocation of some parking and parking spaces, which will be part of what work needs to be done on the site as well. We did, and without getting into the details of it because we need to talk about it in committee of the whole, we did actually show a very preliminary plan of a clubhouse as well. And again, the two representatives who attended the meeting with Mr. Osmond, who were at our last meeting, I know Councillor Ling was there, we're very, very pleased with that as well. So we're nearing a stage, Deputy Mayor, where we can actually share this information in a public forum with the players of the softball league themselves.
And that'll be good.
And I think
the sooner we can do that, I think the better.
Good thing, but I just wanted you to know that things are running along on schedule. This is being well received at every stage by at least the executive of the men's Men's Softball League. And I think in the final analysis they're going to be thrilled with what comes out at the other end of this, to be quite honest with you. So it's something that we've been waiting for years, because it's a piece that is necessary in order to move 3 or 4 other important pieces within the master plan along.
Well, what happens at St. David's after that's going to be not only challenging, but and eagerly anticipated.
I think so, for sure.
We're going to call the question on that then, if there are no other comments. All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. And just one final thing here, and that's related to a relocation of our dog park. Because of some of the considerable proposed development on the site where the dog park currently exists, we are in the final stages of relocation of the dog park, providing, of course, the proposed site meets with the approval of residents, and that will need to pass the litmus test, I guess, of public consultation, which is on Tuesday, August 31st. So a week from today at 7:30 here at City Hall, we will be providing an opportunity for the public to come by, and we will have representation from the Grand Concourse, as well as our director. I'll be chairing that particular briefing session, Your Worship. We think it's a great location, and we've made excellent accommodations so that this dog park will not be in any way an intrusion, but in fact an addition to the area. But let the public decide that, and let them come by and have their say. So we welcome them. I should say that we've already done the mail out to, I think, I saw, 84 addresses within a 150 meter radius. So it's been well circulated, and of course we're inviting the public to come out. So again, next Tuesday, all members of council are welcome to attend as well. Next Tuesday at 7:30. Thank you very much.
This is what I'm looking at here, which is the plan. Councillor Walsh is a question, and I realize that this is for information purposes at the moment, but just to clarify, this entire area is fully fenced? Is that what I'm seeing?
It's fully fenced.
I'm not sure.
The dog park is fully fenced, and it will be connected to the linear walkway trail. The existing brush, which is considerably thick, will be left there, particularly on the left side of the dog park.
Right.
It'll be an enclosed area. There will be sufficient parking on the front, as you'll see there.
Yeah, I see that.
For the dog park. There'll be water on site. And one of the things that I think the users of the park, and we wanted to advocate for ourselves, is that there'll be an option there for larger dogs and smaller dogs. There'll be a field. The field will be divided about 2/3 and 1/3. Sometimes the large and smaller dogs, play fairly well together, and sometimes they don't. So the option is there that if the owner of a small dog would prefer to have the dog in the smaller compound area, that's an option as well. So in relocating the park, we thought that would be a nice addition or a nice option to provide.
Is this an area that will be lit?
The current one is lit, isn't it? So I'm assuming this one will be as well.
Because I don't, unless I'm not seeing it, am I missing something? I don't see the addition of lighting. There's
minimal lighting. It's not lit with mercury lighting. At least the existing one isn't. It's just lit with a couple of regular pole lights, Your Worship. And I think, generally speaking, that's all is ever provided on. We don't encourage them to be there 11 o'clock at night. The owners go there, but in the interest of safety, if they're there at dusk, or if they're there, for example, late in the season when when nightfall arrives a little earlier, the lighting is there for the convenience. But it's not intended to be there so that 10 or 11 or 12 o'clock at night dogs are in the dog park. That's not the intention of it at all. So it's just regular lighting, and it will be added.
Thank you. It is nice, I got to say. Thank you for that. Does that conclude community services?
Thank you very much.
Anybody else have any questions on that item before we move on? All right, we're moving on. Next is corporate services. Councillor Tesseri, if you would.
Thank you, Your Worship. The first item, the committee is recommending approval to provide a $100 donation in support of the HMCS St. John's 2010 Run the Rock fundraiser. The runners are going to be traveling through Mount Pearl on October the 1st, and of course they're going to be greeted by the mayor or his representative, and I so move.
It is moved by Councillor Tesseri, seconded by Councillor Stoyles. This is a traditional avenue of support that we've done for several years now.
Yes.
Questions? All those in favor? Contrary-minded? Motion carried.
The committee is recommending that the July 2010 payment register totaling $3,125,539 be approved as it has been presented, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Tessier, seconded by Councillor Stoyles. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
And we have an amended invoices for approval. I'm going to call it the orange paper only because I can. Because it's orange to me, it always has been. Items 1 through 9 totaling $299,054.49. And again, I move that these invoices be approved as they are presented.
Moved and seconded by Councillor Stoyles. One quick little question, if I can, and I realize it doesn't particularly relate specifically to the invoices, but I see the payment there, item number 1 for Pyramid Construction, the traffic lights at Bruce and Glencoe. When will we see those lights go in? Mr. Lush, would you have a date on that at all? I see all the work is done now, and it looks like the only thing left to go is really the lights. When would we see that happen?
Likely won't see the lights until early next season.
Is that right? It'll be
a two-part contract. So the first was the undergrounds, and the lights are in the second part. But 10 to 12 weeks are standard delivery on the actual traffic structures. They're all special and unique, so they all have to be designed and approved. And there's really only one supplier, so they have been taken pretty much a whole season before we see them.
So we're going to be a while before the lights actually get in.
I don't expect to see them this season. I'm hopeful, but if we're going to follow the way it's been in the past at Corsan Drive, that was a period of 2 years.
So when we say season, we're talking about next spring before these lights go in.
Next spring, I would think, before we see them. Might be wrong, but that's what they've been in the past.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Now, I think things have improved in the area already from the point of view of turning radius for trucks and traffic movement already. So it's a positive. Now, I was just wondering about what time would that show up. Thank you for that. Does anybody have any questions about any of the items listed 1 through 9? Anything at all? Nothing. We'll call it then. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried. Does that conclude corporate services, Councillor Tessier? It does. Moving on, Economic Development, Communications and Tourism Committee report. Councillor Stoyles.
We have 2 items, Your Worship. One was indicated and another one was added on. The one that was added on, I will do that one first, and it's concerning an item actually that was brought to our attention to the Economic Development Department towards the end of March last year, concerning about 2 acres of land surrounding a berm on Dundee and Clyde Avenue.
Right.
And we were asked if the city would be interested in looking into it because it was sort of dead land uttered into the businesses that backed onto the land. So we did an investigation into this land, and the engineering department and the planning department determined that it was no functioning other than it didn't have any. It was the detention pond around it, and we were asked if the city would be interested in selling it to the surrounding businesses. And we did an investigation and looked at it, and it was determined that the city have agreed to sell that land at $29,000 an acre, plus the surveying cost. The surveying, all the survey work now has been done, and we're ready to enter into a contract with the surrounding businesses, and all the businesses have been contacted, and there's 5 businesses in total, and we're recommending, the Economic Development Committee is recommending now that we will sell this 2 acres of land to the following businesses, and like I said, it is a little over 2 acres of land, and I'm recommending that we will sign an agreement with these businesses to sell this property.
Moved by Councillor Stoyles, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. I think you're the alternate on that, are you? Or is it? Yeah, you're the actual member on this one.
Your Worship, is another part as well. There's a small parcel of land that the storm sewer is in, and we're recommending that we go into an agreement that we go into with other homeowners and everything. That's
this easement?
That's this easement, and that we will lease that to one of the businesses, which is Seaforce.
Seaforce Technologies?
That's right, and we're recommending that as well. So I don't know if you want me to
No, that's fine. I think the motion as presented is fine. Have any or all of the businesses agreed to pick up their land at these prices?
At these prices.
So they're all in?
They're all in. The highest one is $39,100,
well, that's super.
And the lowest one is $3,937. And they've all agreed to purchase this land, and we're delighted to be able to help them out.
Excellent.
This will enhance the back properties out of, if these businesses, and we're looking forward to.
Okay, it is moved and it is seconded. Any other question or comment? Inquiry of any kind? We'll call it. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried.
The other item I have, Your Worship, is Connect Global Conference in Phoenix on September the 18th to the 21st. And, of course, our committee is recommending that I, as chair of that committee, will attend that conference, and I so move.
Can Councillor Stoyles move that?
You know?
CAO?
Yes.
She can move that even though it involves herself?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Yeah, I know it is. I just wondered.
Yeah,
That's
I
all.
already
Okay.
asked that question.
All right. Moved by Councillor Stoyles, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried.
And that's all I have, Your Worship.
And that concludes economic development and tourism. We are going to go to engineering services now. Councillor Aker.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. We have 3 items today from the Engineering Services Committee. The first one involves a notice of Brookfield Plains, who are developing the subdivision where the Sprung property is, looking for notice of exception and approval of the acceptance of some work that they did. Even though this property is within the boundary of the City of St. John's, the surrounding property and the entrance going into Brookfield Plains is under the City of Mount Pearl. And basically there was some landscaping done as well as some hedging. And the motion is the approval to issue the requested notice to Kavanagh and Associates for the Brookfield Plains development, and I so move.
It is moved and seconded
Second.
by Councillor Stoyles. I'm looking at this. They've done this work already, right?
The work is already done, yes.
Yeah, and this is really the entrance into that subdivision we're dealing with.
And really what the developer is saying is this work been done to the satisfaction of the City of Mount Pearl. Am I right in saying that? Yes, basically.
Yes.
And it has been.
Okay.
To be noted, Your Worship, I think that
Councillor
because
Wall?
that land is in our city, the front entrance to the land off Commonwealth, I'm
Yes.
assuming that this is. We're probably going to have to do some snow clearing of that as well as the entrance portion of that, unless we enter into some other kind of agreement.
I understood we have.
That's in place.
We have entered.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're going to do that.
I mean,
200.
it's our land, so we have to ensure that
Yeah.
even though it is an entrance to a subdivision in St. John's, we have to ensure that that's taken
Yeah,
care of.
no, that 200 feet, in actual fact, St. John's is going to deal with it as if it were their own.
Okay.
And we have joint agreements in other areas, as you know,
Yep.
like that, so with ramps and so on, so that's fine. I'll call the question on that, then. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried. Item 2.
Item 2 is a request from the Department of Municipal Affairs with the provincial government, basically for approval of the municipal infrastructure agreement as it pertains to the Building Canada Fund Communities component for the 2010 street upgrading project. This was approved back in August 25th of calendar year 09, and basically the agreement lays out the financial cost sharing between the province and the municipality or the City of Mount Pearl. Before I move, I'd like to say thank you to the province of Newfoundland Labrador as well as the Government of Canada for providing this funding, which totals, I believe, close to $7 million for 2010. So the motion is approval for the Mayor and Chief Administrative Officer to sign the Municipal Infrastructure Agreement document for the 2010 street upgrading program, and I so move.
Second.
It is moved and seconded. Question or comment? Hearing none, we'll call it. All those in favor? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
And the final thing, Your Worship, is the tender results for contract package number 3 for the 2010 street upgrading. 3 bids were received, ranging from $1,352,961.43 up to $1,443,611.16. These have been reviewed by our consultants and our staff. All bids are within the estimates, within budget, and found to be in order. And I'd like to note that this would bring, of the $7 million of planned work for the 2010 street upgrading program, this would bring the total contract work up to approximately $5,614,000, leaving still about $1,385,000 to be spent, which I understand we won't commit until we get more of the work done. Is that correct, Director Lush?
Oh, we have to ask permission. Can we spend the money on the streets that we originally changed? So we have to ask permission to spend the money differently now because the streets that our estimates were based on an expectation that prices would go up to about 20-25%, and they didn't. So that's why there's extra money. Now we have to go back and ask, can we do some more streets that are on our priority?
Yeah, they could just as easily, if they wanted to, the province could just as easily say no and the $1.3 million doesn't exist.
Right. So we have to ask permission to spend.
By tradition, they have been
Always
very amenable to this
Yeah.
by doing something. But we're going to have to put the roads in we took out, which is,
Yeah.
hopefully they say yes, that's good news.
So I'd like to move that we award the contract package number 3 to Modern Paving in the amount of $1,352,961.43, and I so move.
It is moved and seconded by Councillor Stiles. Any question or comment beyond this? All those in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried. Does that conclude engineering services?
It does, thank you.
It does. We're moving on then to planning and land use. Deputy Mayor Locke, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. The first item here is a ratification of an order that was issued to 1.5 Wyatt Boulevard. It was issued on August 13th, and the purpose of it was to ensure some cleanup, landscaping, and to secure the property here. And pursuant to the Rural Planning Act, a confirmation of this order is required by Council, and as such, the committee is recommending confirmation of the issuance of the order to the property owner of 1.5 Wyatt Boulevard as issued on August 13, 2010, and I so move.
It is moved by Deputy Mayor Locke, seconded by Councillor Aker, that confirmation of the issuance of the order to the property owner at 1.5 Wyatt Boulevard now be confirmed. All those in favor say aye. Contrary minded, motion is carried.
The next item, Your Worship, is a request from our Director of Planning for the conference being held November 1st to the 3rd, 2010, the Atlantic Planners Institute of the Canadian Institute of Planners, and it's their annual regional conference in Moncton, New Brunswick. There's funds for this allocated in the departmental budget for 2010. As such, the committee is recommending approval for our director to attend this particular conference, again, November 1st to the 3rd, 2010, and I so move.
It is moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary minded, motion's carried.
Third item, Your Worship, has to do with amendments to our municipal plan and development regulations. A request to amend this plan, our plan and regulations, was received in order to accommodate an extension to the west of a building on 1256 Topsa Road, Coastal Marine, and pursuant to the Urban and Rural Planning Act, in order to accommodate this, we had to make some amendments. And pursuant to the Act, the City circulated the notice of the amendment as per usual, established a date for a public hearing. That was set, I think, for August 16th. We had no representations received, and as a result, the hearing was cancelled. The department recommended that Council approve these amendments, and the committee supports these recommendations. So as such, our committee is recommending that Council approve Municipal Plan Amendment number 78, 2010, and Development Regulations Amendment number 2002, 2010, and I so move.
It is moved and seconded. Question or comment? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
Okay.
Item number 4.
Just got to get through this paper here, Your Worship, to get to the next one here. All right. The next item, Your Worship, is dealing with the receipt of an application from Canadian Storage Solutions Limited on behalf of LJP Holdings at 8 Trout Place. They want to extend the building by 2,319 square meters, and the purpose for this extension will be for warehousing use and the associated offices required for this, and it will be on the south side of the existing building on number 8 Trout Place. In terms of our Mount Pearl Municipal Plan 1988, the northern portions of this particular property is designated as mixed use, and the southern portion is designated as open space conservation. However, the expansion or extension will only apply to the northern portion, so the southern open space conservation area is not affected by this particular proposal. The office use and warehouse use is within the range of uses in the mixed use designation under our municipal plan. However, with respect to our development regulations, the subject property is located in the mixed development use zone. The office use is permitted within this zone, but the warehousing use is defined as light industrial use, which is listed as a discretionary use in this particular zone. And in order to process this application, public notification was required. The notice of the application, again, as per usual, was published in the Telegram and was circulated to the 66 properties within the 150-meter radius of this particular property. The city did not receive any representation or inquiry in response to the public notice, and the public session, briefing session, which was scheduled for August 10th, 2010, was cancelled. Sorry, just getting through my papers here. The Planning and Development Department has no objection to a proposal for this particular extension for the combined office use and warehousing at this particular location, 8 Trout Place. And as such, the committee is supporting the recommendation, and we move that a development permit be issued for this particular property, subject to 5 conditions that are outlined there, and I won't read down through all of those, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. Question or comment? All those in favor?
Just a quick question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Walsh.
Okay, just generally speaking, what is the size of an extension that we can allow within our regulations of an existing building? Can anyone tell me that offhand?
Depends upon the size of the lot itself.
Is it
If
the lot or
it's
is it
if
the
it's
building?
a permitted,
I thought it was up to a certain percentage of the building.
if it's a permitted
It is
use.
a lot. The relationship has to do with the building size and the building lot. So the larger the lot, the larger the building, the larger.
So it has nothing to do with the existing dwelling?
No,
No.
Okay. Thank
no. What you may be thinking about is areas where we're dealing with a non-conforming use, where an extension cannot pass 50% of the existing
Maybe that's
building.
what I'm thinking of, but
Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
it was something. Thank you.
Yeah,
That's fine.
but in this one, no. I think it's just a matter of if the lot can accommodate it, you go.
Okay.
We'll call the question. Any other comment? No. All those in favor? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
And the next item here, Your Worship, is an application by Summit Builders on behalf of Minute Muffler proposing the construction of a 108 square meter building extension on the west side of the existing building, and this is at 1059 Topsail Road. This particular property is within the mixed development land use zone, and the minimum side yard width on a flanking street in this particular zone is 10 meters. However, in order to accommodate this particular extension, the applicant is requesting a 10% variance to the flanking street side yard standard. And again, as required by the Mount Pearl Development Regulations, notice this application was mailed to the 110 property owners within 150 meters of the subject property on July 29, 2010. The city did receive one written representation from a resident on Humber Drive, and they expressed concern about sight lines when you're entering Topsail Road from Humber Drive. Our engineering services division, however, assessed this and indicated that visibility issues with this building extension didn't exist. They didn't see any problems with that. Again,
You can tell by looking on the map that it's not going to be an issue for some
right, it
time.
wouldn't. I think staff indicated that the signs that are currently there would be more of an issue than the extension of this building.
Yes.
And again, that the Planning and Development Department has no objections to the variance request, and I recommended that the variance request be approved. And as such, our committee is recommending that the variance request be approved and a development permit be issued, subject again to the conditions outlined there, and I so move.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Locke, seconded by Councillor Aker. Any question or comment?
Just a comment, Your Worship.
Councillor Tessier.
The resident that that expressed any concern at all also was concerned about the landscaping behind the buildings there that are adjacent to Humber Drive, and of course Grandy Crescent is just behind as well. And I just want to make sure that whoever is responsible for maintaining that area, be it the property owners, be it us, the municipality, that it does get cleaned up, because as he quite rightly states, residents are required to maintain their own properties, and really open space behind buildings should be no different in commercial areas. So as long as that also does get tidied up as well, then I have no problem with this either.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Yevchek?
Your Worship, that second piece of the response actually relates to a different property. It's not the property of this property owner. And what we have done is we have it's been referred to an inspector that is following up on the response.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
Our next item, Your Worship, is the development permit list for August 7th to August 20th, 2010. We have two permits listed there, one on Moore's Drive and the other on 8 Trout Place, and I move that they be accepted as presented.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried.
Following that, we have our building construction permits, again for the same time period, August 7th to August 20th, 2010, and residential construction permits during that time period totaled $467,360. Commercial permits during the same time came in at $458,500, bringing the total for this time period to $925,860, and I move that these amounts be accepted as presented.
Moved and seconded by Councillor Aker. Question or comment? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
And the last item here, Your Worship, involves...
Is outside the book.
It's outside the book, yes, sorry, outside the kit. It's a discretionary use application for 28 Alston Street. And Interior Specialties Limited, on behalf of the School of Dance Studio East and Goldstone Holdings, are proposing interior renovations to a 260.25 square meter portion of the building at 28 Alston Street. And this is discretionary use. Under the municipal plan, it's designated as industrial, and under our development regulations, it's designated as industrial light. But again, it's a discretionary use, so it required public notification. Again, we advertised this in the Telegram as per usual, contacted the 23 properties and business owners within a 150-meter radius. The city, however, did not receive any representation in response to the public notice, and the briefing session, again scheduled for August 24th, has been cancelled. So as such, the department has no objection to the this interior renovations, and the committee moves that that this be permitted, again with the 5 conditions that are outlined there, and I so move.
It has been moved, seconded by Councillor Aker. Question or comment? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried.
And that is it for me, Your Worship.
And that concludes planning. That concludes all committee reports. We are now moving. We have nothing else outside the agenda. We'll move on to new business. Last meeting we started on my left. This week we'll start on our right. Councillor Aker.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Floor is yours.
Something that's concerning me this summer as I make my travels around the city is people parking on the side of the road where our trails come and go in where they intersect our roads. And I'm wondering, because there's no signs that say you're not allowed to park in front of a trail, but think about it. For those that are mobilely challenged, as well as people in wheelchairs, it's very difficult getting on and off the trails from the street when a car is parked there. So I'd like to remind residents to show a bit of consideration when they're parking in front of trails, not to park there basically, in consideration of others. I'd also like to ask, is that ticketable? I mean, we don't have signs up, but can we issue a ticket when somebody parks in front of a trail leading off a city street?
Mr. Osmond?
Your Worship, we can only issue a ticket if there's a no parking zone, and a lot of these walkway access points are actually just walkway accesses to a sidewalk, in some cases to a curb. So the issue we would have is that if we don't want people parking right into that front on that sidewalk or curb, we got to put a sign up saying no parking. Because a lot of these don't have, because a lot of these are also mailboxes attached to them, right, as well, and a lot of those don't have no parking signs in front. So we'd have to put a no parking sign and decide if there's issues with parking in front of an actual access point.
That could prove difficult in some areas.
Yes,
not all,
those,
but in
a
some.
lot of those. So we'd have to take a close look at what happens when we decide to put no parking signs in front of certain areas. Some are in no parking zones by very nature. But in the case of making a decision on which ones, we'd have to go back and review all of our access points where that might be an issue.
Okay. Not heard that complaint before, though.
I guess
Mr. Lush.
We have fixed a few. We fixed them by painting a crosswalk on the street, and then they're able to take care of it. So if you identify the one where you see the problem, we can go look at it and see if we can install the crosswalk signs, and then it's ticketable.
And that would, and then you'd avoid it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that. The final thing, Your Worship, is I want to give thanks to and congratulations to the Mount Pearl Blazers baseball team, and in particular Dave Roper, who supplied us with some of the team members with their jerseys.
Yeah, he really let me down. Tell him.
Yeah, he really did. Eh? Well, we like to, and Dave would be happy to advise you, Your Worship, next year, because we're confident they're going to be back in the finals.
He doesn't think I'm taking this bet again, does he?
But he can help you handicap the results. So anyway, congratulations to the Blazers, and thank you to Dave for the jerseys.
They did a great job. They made us proud as always, and that's wonderful. And I see. Well, I'm glad you all wore the jerseys today. That makes me feel a little better. Councillor Walsh.
Well, I'm glad, Your Worship, that you didn't wear the jersey last time, because I got to tell you, these smell a little bit better than they did the last time they were brought in here. I think they were fresh from the field and didn't even smell like the baseball field, actually. But these are as fresh as a daisy.
There you go.
I just want to make mention of the fact, Your Worship, that as part of the refurbishing of our website, Council had requested that we provide access for electronic registration. One of the big programs where, I remember, and I'm sure members of council remember, when you had to go down in the wee hours of the morning to line up so that children could be registered for swimming. Yeah. Well, thanks to the new electronic access program, which is going to be launched for the first time very shortly, in fact, for the fall registration, that will no longer be the case. There'll be a number of programs that can be accessed, but the one that obviously will garner the most attention and probably be most well received is swimming. So that has been trial run. It seems to be, I think the technology is running well and operating well, and we're looking forward to an electronic registration on that for the fall program registration. I also want to make note of the fact that because I think one of the programs that's there is the 50-plus program registration, there's swimming. There may be a small number of people who either don't have the computer access or don't have the computer savvy to register. They've provided times for them to come by, and so they can still register electronically, but with the assistance of some staff and some computer access. And I think, particularly early, that's also a great benefit and a great way to do it. And I think the people who are putting together the registration program and accessing the technology seem to have thought of everything, and I think this is a good way to do it. So we're looking forward to seeing how it works, and hopefully it will work well. The only other thing that I wanted to mention, Your Worship, is that you may or may not have seen at the top of Ruth Avenue signs welcoming people to come in to see the new bowling facility, the dance studios, and the martial arts rooms. That is now completed. I'm going to take an opportunity sometime either later this week or next week to go with the director and have a look at that facility. We've been invited specifically to have a look at it, see what it's all about.
I'd love
to
do that.
The general public are also invited to go because they're welcoming people to have a look. I guess it will remain to be seen how much or how little impact having the 10 lanes as opposed to 20 will have on our bowling, particularly our youth bowling programs, and also I guess the Special Olympics, who are major users of that facility. It certainly won't mean that they can't access it. It's just that it'll take twice as much time for them to be able to access it using only 10 lanes. So we'll watch that carefully. There may be, in fact, a business opportunity for somebody down the road if they want to get into it and look at bowling. We've been, I know, lobbied as a council to get into the bowling business, and we're really not interested in that, nor should we be. This should be in the hands of private enterprise where most others are. So we'll have a look at the facility. I certainly wish the Dobbin Group and the program organizers there, I think Erica Coltis is involved
City
with the program.
Stars.
City Stars is the name of the
Wish
program.
them well, yep.
And I think Erica has been the one who started that City Stars program, at least the basketball component. So we'll see how it goes, and we wish them the best of luck. Thanks.
Amen. Thank you for that. Councillor Stoyles.
Yes, Your Worship, I have a couple of things. Actually, 2 weeks ago today, I informed our council about the leader of the opposition, Evan Jones, having breast cancer. And of course, at that time, she hadn't gone public with it. And of course, since then, I guess everybody has heard the media stories about Evan, and she has gone through her surgery. And I just wanted, I guess, on behalf of council and I guess for the city to send her some best wishes and maybe a basket of fruit or a bouquet balloons or something on behalf of the city and wish her
She
well.
is out of the hospital now?
Oh yes, she only spent a couple of days in hospital. She's home recuperating. She's not seen a lot of people as of yet, just some close family friends.
Can appreciate that.
And it's been, of course, going to be a long battle for her going through treatments and that, but I certainly would like for us to send along on behalf of the city our best wishes. And also your worship.
So some kind of get well soon thing.
Some kind
We'll
of get
turn to
well.
Mona. She's our expert in get well soon things.
Yeah.
Mona, would you arrange something for us? I'm sure council would love to be able to send our
I
press
have
wishes
her
that way.
address and that if you want to.
All right, there you go.
contact.
Everybody fine with doing that? Absolutely. Okay.
Also, your worship, on a sad note, I want to mention two well-known, prominent businessmen in our community that passed away since our last meeting. Tony Silva, Tony the Tailor, as we all know him. Tony was a resident of Mount Pearl, and I know him, I guess, through like a couple of things through the city and that, and of course he passed away, and I'd like for us to pass along our sympathies on behalf of the city. And just this past Sunday, I attended Seymour Dyke's funeral. Seymour was always was proud to say he lived in Mount Pearl.
Long-time resident.
Good friend of mine. I attended his funeral and his service on Sunday at Salvation Army, and I know there was a number of staff here at the city that also attended. And Seymour was well liked in the community, did a lot of charity work within the community of Mount Pearl. Anyway, I just wanted to. The church. I mean, the service on Sunday was, close to 3 hours by the time everything was.
Quite a celebration of his life.
It was quite a celebration of his life, and so it should have been, because Seymour, if you lived in Mount Pearl for any amount of time, most people knew who Seymour Dyke was.
Absolutely.
A prominent businessman and a wonderful man. And I would like for us to send along our sympathies on behalf of the city.
To the family,
to
absolutely.
both of those families. I have one other item that I want to mention, Your Worship, and that is on yesterday afternoon. I had a couple of people in my car, and I took a detour down behind Dominion instead of we were going to a restaurant in Mount Pearl up in that area, and it wasn't on the Dominion parking lot, but behind Dominion in that little alleyway, there was about 15 bags of garbage. I was almost embarrassed with the people I had in the car as we drove by, and we could see, we didn't know what it was first, and then of course by the time we got closer to it, there was about 10 to 15 bags of garbage. I don't know if they're still there, but if you drive down on the liquor store side of Dominion, going right down around the back, before you make the turn, there's a big pile of garbage. It was unbelievable. Like, I don't know. All I know is, it was garbage, because some of the bags were torn open by animals, and I was embarrassed with the people I had in my car, saying, "Oh my God!" Anyway, I certainly would like to have someone, make sure that it's not there for other people to see. It was just an awful eyesore. It wasn't. I mentioned Dominion. It has nothing to do with the Dominion store, just the location, to let our staff know where to go. Because as I made the turn to go down behind Dominion, they had the dumpster there, and everything was clean, and everything was.
So we don't know where this garbage came from.
We don't know where this garbage came from, but it was a good, 15 bags of garbage piled up, and I would like our staff to have someone
We'll check it
go
out.
and check it out.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving on. New business, Deputy Mayor?
Yes, Your Worship. I just have one item that I wanted to address. Some months back, Council approved my attendance to a conference in New Orleans, and the minutes showed that approval was granted, but I did not attend. So I just wanted to, let it be known that I wasn't able to. I spoke to our CEO today, and he suggested I bring it up under new business, and just for the record, let it be known that I wasn't able to attend.
So are there any cost implications to the city for that at this point in time at all? No,
Nothing.
Because airline tickets and things weren't
No,
booked.
none
and
of
so
that.
on. Okay.
Okay,
that's
just
fine.
want to let that know. Thank you,
That's
Worship.
fine. Thank you. Councillor Tessier?
Just one quick item. I'm not sure if school is back in session before our next public meeting or not.
September 8th.
September 8th, so it's the next day. Our public meeting is the 7th. Okay,
It's the 7th. It's the day before.
Just want to make sure that teachers are back on the 7th. Oh, they'll be so sad. I just want to make sure that the public, of course, is very aware that our children are going to be back on our streets again, walking to school. traffic is going to be considerably more congested, certainly during rush hour and in the afternoon, and encourage our residents to definitely leave their houses a couple of minutes earlier so that they don't have to feel rushed, they don't have to feel impatient when they're stuck in traffic. Give themselves lots of time to ensure the safety of some of our most precious residents, and certainly themselves. Sorry, Councillor Roth?
That's right.
No. But again, right? I mean, when you're out of the habit during the summer, it's easy to forget how very busy it can get in the mornings during rush hour. So again, just want to make our public aware that they should definitely be cognizant of our young people, certainly in 2 weeks' time.
Hear, hear. Agree with that. I have nothing to present or table for new business at this point in time. I want to get this Jersey office